Welcome to Inside the Noise by Guitarcenter, where we interview the artists, the leaders, and the innovators in the music industry. I'm Gabe Dalporto, CEO of Guitarcenter. Let's go inside the noise. Hey, everybody. I have a really special interview today with Kenny Aronoff. Kenny is one of the most known and respected drummers in history. And Kenny was really cut his teeth with John Mellencamp and really refined his sound there. He is a student of drumming and is constantly pushing himself to get better. He's a friend of Guitarcenter. We've done a lot of collaborations together, and he's got an incredible story, and it's just such an engaging conversation. You do not want to miss this. Today we're here with Kenny Aronoff. Kenny is a legend in the drumming world. Rolling Stone ranked him one of the best drummers of all time. Modern Drummer gave him multiple years of the #1 rock drummer and #1 studio drummer in the world. He has played with everybody from John Cougar Mellencamp all the way to Bob Dylan and pretty much everybody in between. So welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me come.
I'm so excited to have this conversation. And look, I would just love if you could rewind us a little bit and tell us, how did you get into drumming? Like, how did you get so interested?
When I grew up, there was not much on TV. So me and my twin brother were playing outside. We always play outside, inventing things to do. And my mom yelled at us from the porch, boys, you got to come in right now. And I went, oh my God, I'm in trouble, which was usually the case. And so we go running across the lawn, and I was ready to get yelled at. And she was pointing to an old TV set. We had this RCA TV set with the rabbit ear antenna,
Oh, remember those?
Right, tinfoil on top. We grew up in Western Mass. There wasn't, great reception. There was no cable. So anyway, there were these 4 guys on the TV set, and they were wearing suits, but they weren't like your dad's suits. They were hip. They were cool. And they had long hair, which was, whoa, And then they broke into some playing rock and roll. Now, I had heard them on radio, but I'd never seen them. Because back then, there was no computers. There was no cell phones. So I'm like blown away. It was at that split second, I was electrified. I was like, oh, my God. And it wasn't coming from here. It was coming from here. I was like, oh, my God, I want to do this. I got to do this. How do you do this? And I said, Mom, who are those guys? She said, well, they're the Beatles. And I'm like, well, I want to play in the Beatles. Call them up and tell them the drummer can stay, and I want to play in the band with them. And yeah, I'm 10, And I said, and forget about those piano lessons. I'm playing drums now. So I want a drum set. Well, my mom didn't call the Beatles up, and they didn't get me a drum set. We didn't have a lot of money, and they weren't going to give a 10-year-old kid suddenly a drum set. And I was bummed. I was really bummed. And because, there was no... it was obvious that I was passionate. This is what I want to do, but I had no way to get there. So there was no manual. I couldn't call up my buddy's dad and say, hey, can you call up Paul McCartney? And so that was off the table. So I was really bummed. And my parents saw that I was crazy about music, and I was crazy about I immediately bought the Beatles record and Meet the Beatles and the Beach Boys, and I started buying records. I was 10 and get on my little bike, and save up my gardening money and get stuff. And they saw me bang on stuff. So finally they get me a snare drum and a cymbal. And I started my first band at age 10 called the Alley Cats. And we played Beatles music. And I would shut my eyes and imagine I had long hair, which didn't last very long in my life. And girls were going crazy like they went for them. And that was my fantasy. And the cool thing about the story is 50 years later, right here in LA, I get called to do a CBS special called The Night That Changed America on CBS. The Beatles, The Night That Changed America. And it was honoring them for that Ed Sullivan show that I'd seen that 63 million people saw.
Iconic.
No, 73 million people saw in America. And I got to play with Ringo Starr and Paul McCartney. So 50 years later, that means I was pretty old. But anyway, so that's kind of the thing that got me started. And
you got to play with your icons.
Yeah.
How many people can say that?
I know.
It's just too good.
I never saw it coming, but man, you won't believe it. So, I played with like 9 artists at the show, like Dave Grohl, Alicia Keys and John Legend duo, John Mayer, Keith Urban, Joe Walsh, Jeff Lynne from ELO, Stevie Wonder, Brad Paisley, and on and on. When I get done, there's like 30 minutes left. And so I thought, I'm going to go out in the audience and watch the rest of the show. And there's these elite seats right in the front, you know, Tom Hanks and his wife, Ringo Starr and his wife, Paul McCartney's girlfriend, the two widows of, you know, John Lennon and George Harrison, and Johnny Depp, you know, Tom Cruise and Sean Penn. And I'm like, oh my God. And they're all, because they just saw me on the big screen. But Ringo was going, bravo, Kenny, bravo. I'd met him because I'd actually played with him 2 weeks before. We were honoring him for some charity. But, I mean, I never had a chance to really talk to him because everybody's always around him. So I go up to him, and now I'm feeling this feeling of like, I got to tell him how I really feel about him and how important he is to me. So I get down on one knee because everyone's looking at me in this arena, and the cameras are on me, you know, and Ringo, mostly on Ringo. And I get on one knee, and he goes, "It's okay, Kenny, I'm already married." And his wife is laughing. And I said, "No, dude." And I stand because, no, you're the reason why I play drums. You're the reason why I play rock and roll. You and the Beatles set me on a course at age 10 that I'm still on. I mean, you helped me realize my purpose in life. I mean, it just flew out of me like that. And then I just walked away, and I started thinking, you know what? Because like I was hearing myself say, just talk, and I went, you know what? In order to be great at anything in life, the key is to find what your purpose is, your deepest desires, your passion, your truth, whatever you want to call it. It's coming from here, not up here. When it comes from here, that is the fuel that'll help you be unstoppable, uncommon, and, you know, authentically you, help you overcome any obstacles or setbacks you'll run in life, like a running back in football. We were talking about football a minute ago, where a running back, you know, they don't always get touchdowns. Sometimes 5 yards, 3 yards, 2 yards, -2, a fumble, break their leg in preseason, they come back. Why? Because they friggin' love football. I'm that guy. I'm a running back in the music business. Beatles helped me get there. And I'm the guy who wakes up in the morning. I can't wait to do what I'm going to do. But more importantly, I'm the guy at night that doesn't want to turn the lights off at night because I'm still digging what I'm doing. The only reason I go to bed is I know that for health reasons, I've got to get some sleep.
I can't imagine better advice to anybody getting their start in this world. You know, to a very small extent, I experienced the same thing when I came to Guitarcenter, and you know, I spent my entire career doing interesting things, but you know, my personal passion was always playing music and playing guitar, and so I was always outside the music industry. And the first day I actually set foot in this building, you know, as an employee of Guitarcenter, I just had 10 times the energy and the passion and the joy. And every day I'm just so excited to get in here, and I just feel so blessed to be part of this. And I just never appreciated it. I mean, I had a pretty long and successful career, but I never appreciated that there was something missing.
Yeah.
You know, so I totally relate to that.
Dude, I can feel it from you. It's like it keeps you healthy. Look at you, look young, healthy, vibrant, happy. I mean, it's because you love what you're doing. You like being connected to this music business.
It's so wonderful. Now take me from, you know, you have a snare drum and a cymbal.
Yeah.
And where do you go from there? Like, what was your big breakthrough? Like, how did you actually come onto the scene?
Well, it was slow because, you know, and you know, you ask anybody, even Eddie Van Halen or Axl Rose, everybody's had to, you're not born successful. Nobody's born successful. Success doesn't just land in your lap. You have to make it happen. You have to take action. And when you find your passion and your purpose, that's not really a problem. You're going to just keep going for it. Bam, bam, bam. So I just played in bands. Nobody could hook me up with the Beatles, so I just played in bands all the way through high school, you know, grade school and, you know, junior high and high school. And in our family, everybody went to college. So, and let me back up. In my sophomore year in high school, there was a kid in my little town of 3,000 in Western Mass who was getting better. I'm like, wow. Your hands are faster. What are you doing? He says, well, I'm studying with the percussionists from the Boston Symphony Orchestra, who their summer festival was at Tanglewood, which is 3 miles from my house. So he said, well, you want to take a lesson? Go ahead. So I'll try to be brief with this story. And the reason why this story is pertinent is because this tells you something about who I was and this this guy was very instrumental in teaching me self-discipline, hard work, and perseverance. So I go to his house. First lesson, his name's Arthur Press. He goes, "What's your name?" I said, "Kenny." "Kenny what?" I'm Kenny Aronoff. Already I'm like, uh-oh. And he goes, "What have you prepared for me today?" I went, "Prepared?" I look at my buddy, tell me, "You didn't tell me, do you have a mallet piece to play for me?" I says, "What are mallets?" Already I'm like, He goes, "Well, did you prepare a timpani piece for me?" "I've never played timpani." "What do you play?" I said, "I play drums." "Oh, okay, well, let's go into the house." I wasn't even in the house yet. We go in the house in the basement. He says, he puts on Blood, Sweat, and Tears, Spinning Wheels. And I'd been jamming to it in my house. And in 30 seconds, he rips me off the set, points me over to a practice pad. And that was the moment where I could have gone, I mean, I was popular in high school. And I had a rock band. And what am I doing with this practice pad and this guy? But something in me knew, dude, this is good for you. I've never met a guy like this. So we started very slow, on the pad, and he got me into mallets and then the timpani. He taught it at one of the colleges in Boston. It wasn't New England Conservatory. It was another one, but he was grooming. He went to Juilliard, and he was grooming me to be a percussionist. So when it was time to go to college, I was not good enough to get in the top three, which is Indiana University, Juilliard, and Eastman, in that order. So I got into University of Massachusetts, and I started, working my ass off. I committed to trying to be a percussionist, but I always was playing in rock bands. Always, it was rock bands all the time, and so I was way behind, and I was overwhelmed. But I just would practice till they throw me out of the school at night, and that's kind of like the way I approach everything. So that summer. No, there was a really hot cellist at the school, a junior. I said, "What are you doing this summer?" So I'm going to Aspen. I said, "What's Aspen?" "Well, Aspen School of Music, run by Juilliard." I went, "Juilliard? Second best school in the country, and she's going there. So I auditioned, and last day of school, I never heard from them, and I was going to have an Allman Brothers band for the summer and study with Arthur Press. Last day of school, I drive out of the campus, and I realized, I didn't get my mail. All right, I got to go back, get it. I got accepted to Aspen 2 weeks before, so I think I was an alternate. And the reason why I think that, when I got there, I was the worst, absolute worst percussionist there. These kids were playing timpani when they were 6 years old, and
wow.
They were like Juilliard prep. They were the best. And I got my ass kicked. I got yelled at by conductors. But the teacher who taught there was head of the percussion department at Indiana University School of Music, the #1 school of music. I went, I want to go to that. So I said to him, I want to transfer and come to Indiana University. He goes, "Come back in January and audition." I went, "Nope. I want to go to Indiana University from right here in Aspen. Come back in January." "No, I want to go now." He goes, "Well, all right." Because he's thinking, I'm going to love teaching this guy. He wants to work. She said, "You have to audition for 4 departments that happen to be, there were 4 teachers up there from Indiana University, brass, woodwinds, violin, and then percussion." I auditioned again and spent 4 years there and worked my way from the bottom to the top. I was in 5 orchestras. I was in the #1 orchestra. By my junior year, playing timpani, I won a violin concerto. I played a marimba with a 60-piece orchestra that I saw Itzhak Perlman play as his encore for my senior recital, one of my 4 pieces. I got the highest award you could get from this school. And every year I auditioned to go to Tanglewood, which is the #1 student orchestra run by the Boston Symphony Orchestra, and I'd auditioned for Vic Firth. First year, failed. Sucked. Horrible audition. Second year, I went, I know what to do now. Failed. Then I started studying with Vic. Went back a 3rd year. Didn't get in. Strike 3 year out? Not Kenny. I went back a 4th year and got in. And that's where I worked with Leonard Bernstein, Aaron Copland, Sergio Zawa, all the conductors of the Boston Symphony Orchestra. Graduate Indiana University, and I get into the Jerusalem Symphony Orchestra. And here's a pivotal moment. I get accepted, and everyone's like, wow, you made it. In 5 years, you went from really bad to good enough to get into an orchestra. There aren't that many orchestras in the world. And I turned it down. Now, here's the takeaway. Big takeaway here. And it ties into what we were talking about. I turned it down because my brain was saying, you got to do this. My heart was saying, I want to be in a rock band. And I listened to my heart. So I turned down certainty, a paycheck, and a gig for complete uncertainty. I didn't have a backup plan. I turned down certainty for possibility. I moved back home, freaked out that I'd spent all these hours studying classical music and composition and conducting and piano and all this stuff that you do at a conservatory. And now I'm like, oh my God, I got to compete with Steve Smith and Steve Gadd and Vinnie Colaiuta. And like, what have I been doing? And I practiced 8 hours a day, 7 days a week in my parents' house. I felt kind of like a loser, actually. And after 1 year of this, a bunch of guys from Indiana University say, well, we're starting a band. We have an investor. And the business model was you write songs, you get a record deal, and then they give you money and you make a record. And then you go on tour, sell records, maybe get on the radio, and you repeat, and then you become big and everybody's making money. That's the plan. That's the way it worked. Went out there, music, we didn't write real great, and our stuff was a little bit too fusion-y. And anyway, after 3 years, I'm 27. I got no money. I got nothing. I'm 27, and I'm going to move to New York. I quit the band. I've got to do something. I have lunch with this singer-songwriter, and she says, what are you up to? I'm going to go to New York. Oh, you're going to crush it. She says, hey, you know this guy that's on the radio right here in Bloomington, this guy, Johnny Cougar, you know his stuff? I went, and MTV had just started. So he was one of the guys, Tom Petty, Johnny Cougar, and a couple other bands were like their kind of go-to bands, the Go-Go's maybe. And I went, yeah, I wasn't blown away by it. I mean, I wasn't like into radio music that much, like understanding it now. And, but I went, wait a minute. And she said he just fired his drummer last night. They were on tour opening up for Kiss or somebody. And I went, ding, ding, ding.
He fired his drummer on tour?
On the way back.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I think it was an argument about something, contribution. Anyway, John fired him. And I went, oh my God, records, touring, radio, MTV, the Beatles. This is what I've always wanted to do. I went running to a payphone because there was no cell phone, called the guitar player and said, Mike, this is Kenny Aronoff. He says, oh yeah, man, what's up? I said, I heard you might be looking for a drummer. I said, I want to audition. He says, call me in 2 weeks. We're just trying to figure out what we're going to do. I went right to the record store. I remember it, Karma Records. Bought their latest record, went home, took my educational skills and wrote every drum beat out on every song, and I practiced 6 hours, 8 hours a day. And I was going, God, the drummer's playing so simple. Why is he playing so? Why isn't he going, brrr? Why is he going, ga, goo, do, da, or goo, 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 ga? I'm like, I don't get it, but okay. And I memorized it. I'd go outside the room and I'd yell out a song and go on the drums and play it without the music. That's how prepared I was. I auditioned. Life-changing moment. 2 songs. And they said, John goes, do you know any of the songs on the last record? I went, kind of. And I crushed it. I played so friggin' hard because I thought, well, they play in big arenas. I already was so loud anyway. And I was breaking cymbals, sticks, everything. And I get done with these 2 songs, and John goes upstairs. And then he yells down to Mike, get up here. I'm like, whoa, Mike must have messed up. Mike comes down in 10 minutes, and I'm thinking, I love this. Les Paul and a Marshall, Strat and a Fender amp. I'm like, this is badass. I love this. This is what I want. I want this gig. Mike comes down, shakes my hand, goes like this, welcome to hell. And I went, yay, what's hell? 5 weeks later, I'm out here in LA making a record at Cherokee Studios on Fairfax. I've told everybody, see, this is what I'm supposed to do. Everything's in flow, all the education, the hard work, everything's rocking. And in 2 days, I got fired from the record. Yeah.
Wow.
Life-changing horror for me. I felt like such a loser. I felt like a failure. And here we have a band meeting, and I can feel it coming. And John says, Kenny, you're not playing on the record, and I'll pay for the rest of the week, and you then go home. And the words that came out of my mouth, all fueled by this passion that we've been talking about, were life-changing. I can't say exactly what I said, but it was with an F. I said, no friggin' way am I going back to Bloomington, Indiana. And the whole band's like, he just said no to John. That'd be like if I said, you're fired, and you go, no, I'm not. I said, well, yeah, you're fired. No, I'm not. I went, well, don't you understand about the words, you are fired? I wouldn't do it. I was like, because he was stealing my purpose. I'm not going home. So now I'm freaking out. I'm trying to invent stuff to say. I go, well, am I still the drummer in your band? And the band is like, they're like, oh, this is not going to end well. And John goes, well, yeah, but you're not playing on the record. And then I go, well, I'm going to go in the studio and I'm going to watch these other drummers, session drummers, play my drum parts on your record. And I'm going to learn. I'm going to watch them. I'm going to learn. I'm going to get better. And that's good for you because I'm your drummer. He didn't say anything. I'm like, I went, okay, you don't have to pay me. I'll sleep on the couch. Perfect. And I stayed and I learned. Oh, boy, I learned a lot. And here's what I learned.
Well, you'd gone and got your classical education. Like, you'd worked harder than anybody else. Like, you'd made it to the peak. Like, what was different that you didn't know at that point?
That's the $1 million question. I'll ask drummers, unless they've heard me say that, nobody's ever got it. And they said, what is the purpose of a drummer when you're making a record? And they'll go like, the right beat, yeah. Keep time, yeah. Get along with people, yeah. But no, what's the North Star? And they go, and I go, to get the song on the radio to be a #1 hit single. That's the North Star. Anything anybody's doing in that room should be like, is this going to be a #1 hit single? And what I'm doing, helping. So I had to change from being, it's about me, to it's about we, team player. I've learned at that moment, it's not about me, my hands. How do I sound, Teach? How do I sound, guys? It's like, how am I helping this team get a song on the radio to be a #1 hit single? Suddenly I realized, nobody tells you this stuff. And I went, I have to be the best drummer for his music. And I have to serve him, his song, the band, the producer, everybody. What is my leave your ego out of it. Maybe I shouldn't even play. Maybe on a song called Pink Houses, I remember I went, I've done it. Maybe I'll play tambourine at the beginning and then come in at the second intro after the first chorus on the drums. So lift. I never even thought about this. And after those 4 weeks, I went home and I went, okay. Completely revamped my whole approach to playing the drums. And that was the beginning of my career. That's how I went, wow. Serve. And that was the beginning. That was huge. And thank God John kept me around because it was humbling and I was not, I was the new guy. So it was like, but my passion and drive and wanting it so bad, after practice, and we practiced 11 in the morning to 5 at night, dinner break from 5 to 7, practice 7 to 11, 5 days a week like a business. And I'd go home at night and continue practicing until I felt like, listening to what was on the radio, playing like a simple, bands with the drummers like Charlie Watts with the Stones, Phil Rudd from AC/DC, Bad Company, Creedence Clearwater, things that were simple where the drum is in a rhythm section and served the song. And that put me on a path that has brought me where I am now.
What an incredible story.
Hey, I just want to say thank you so much for listening to the podcast. We've actually been really overwhelmed by the response so far, so thank you for that. We have also noticed that a lot of you haven't subscribed yet. We have incredible guests coming up. I'm not even allowed to tell you who they are, but trust me, you don't want to miss this. So hit subscribe. That way you don't miss an episode. Now back to the program.
So you hook up with John Cougar Mellencamp. You don't get to record on the first album.
Right.
Then when did you actually get to put your impression on that band?
Okay, so the next record, which was 2 years, and I remember being humbly like, okay, I'm going to make the next record. I don't care what I have to go through. I get stabbed, hit, beat. I'm going to make the next record. I got to make the next record. The hardest record I've ever made. John was going through a divorce. He was about to lose his record deal again, second time. I didn't know that. A week before we go in the studio, we're in Indiana going down a country road. We're going to meet and have some drinks in town. He goes by on his motorcycle, Harley, in the dark at 80 miles an hour, gives us the finger. Next thing you know, I see sparks and an explosion.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. What had happened, he went by us. A dog jumped out from a farm, hit the bike. Bike goes down. He gets on the bike, spinning down the road, and just before it hits the tree, pushed off. So we slam on our brakes, or the bass player, and we're like, oh my God, I'm not going to be able to make the next record. He's dead. No, I didn't say that. But it's a good story. I mean, but he's limping around. And so he's in the studio. And what I'm saying is he's not in a good mood. He's limping around. He's cranky. And see, John could write songs. He's an idea guy. He was a visionary guy. But we as a band would like arrange them and come up with parts. And so he was like, come on, give me something. One day I walk in the studio. By the way, this was 9 weeks at Criteria Studios. This is where record labels had money because they were selling records. Like check this out. I'm on 3 records that sold 40 million copies each. If the record label is making 82 cents on the dollar, 82 cents, let's say they're netting $10 a record. So they get $88.20 from $10, and the artist gets the rest. $8.20 times 40 million, let's say 120 million. That's a lot of money. That gives them plenty of money to invest in new bands, put bands on the road. That's tour buses, cars, hotels, salaries. You got to pay all this crew. Where does that money come from? Record lays it out. You have to pay them back, of course, but they have the money to do that, to invest. When I got in the John Mellencamp band, that first record that I wasn't on, he had already made 4 records before that, and they all failed. Mm. And you find out a lot of these bands that did that, and that's how they learn. Anyway, I walk in the studio, and the co-producer's got this metal box. I went, Don, what's that? And he goes, well, the Bee Gees are using it next door. It's the new technology. They're using it. We're going to try it on this song, Jack and Diane, that was not going to be on the record. We didn't know what to do with it. It was like a kind of a folky song with a great lyrics, but we didn't know what to do with it. And they thought, well, this is new technology. It's like, like Phil Collins had In the Air Tonight, and he had a drum machine. Hall & Oates was using drum machines. So I thought, well, we'll give it a shot. So he says, it's a Lin 1 drum machine. I went, drum machine? They replaced drummers. I got replaced by 2 humans 2 years ago, and now I went, so here's what I call fight or fight, not fight or flight. It's like when John told me you're fired, I went, you're not. I'm not fired. I went, well, I'm going to program it. Grab the machine, grab the manual. I said, well, I'm going to be part of this new technology. I want to be part of this new thing. If this is the new thing, I'm going to be in it. So I went into control or the lounge, and I'm like, basically I programmed what I was playing on the drums, but it sounded different because it was a drum machine. And it had 8 outputs. So you could bring each output up on a fader. And they thought, well, we'll mess around with like bring this in, bring that in. But after 2 verses and 2 choruses, it's like boring. So I'm sitting in there in the lounge going, am I in the horse and buggy business and the car just showed up and I'm out? I mean, is this what's happening with the drummer's out? And I'm like, I'm scratching my head. And 2 hours later, I get, Aronoff, get in here. Mellencamp says, we need a drum thing, a drum solo or something. After the chorus, I'm like, what? On a ballad? I'm like, oh my God, I'm going, all right, serve the song, save the song, save your career. okay. And I'm thinking, okay, what are you going to play? What's going to be great on the radio? Thank God we spent, most back then, in the early 80s, the drums were recorded in vocal booths because it was easier to control the sound. So we moved the drums into the big room. So where do you put the room mics? Nobody knew because there's a delay. Obviously the close mics, overheads, it's very close, so that's big. But where do you put the room mics? High, low, medium, 12 feet, 15 feet, 20 feet. They spent, I swear to God, all day working on that to get the right ga as opposed to ga, and then what EQs and compressions and all this stuff. And I'm going, serve the song. So finally, it's my moment. Machine's going, dish, 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 dish. I go, kablam! Bass drum, snare drum, and 4. And I stopped. I looked in the control room for some validation. I got 9 guys going like that. So that's 18 thumbs, I think. And I'm like, oh gosh, I still got my job. So I'm playing stuff. I think I'm going to go up the drums. Everyone goes down the time. I'm going to go up. I hit a dead end. Get called in. Another terrifying moment. My adrenaline's going up, my cortisol. I think I'm going to get fired. And I got half the people telling me, you should do this. And I got half the other people, you shouldn't do that. And I'm like, my head's spinning, and all of a sudden the light went off in my head and says, you're on your own. Dude, you got to figure this out. This is like, I went out of the room to get away from them, and I'm like, what are you going to do? And I'm like, this is like the World Series. It's like, if you hit a home run, it's like, bases are loaded, you're losing, it's 2 outs, and it's a full count. If you strike out, you're the loser. If you hit a home run, you're the hero. So I'm walking to the drums. I'm like 40 feet away. I said, what are you going to play? At 30 feet, I'm like, I don't know. 20 feet, what are you going to play, Kenny? I don't know. At 10 feet, I'm like, you're going to lose your job. This is it. I turn around. I'm looking at them. I'm looking at the drums. I'm like, oh my God. And all of a sudden, thank God, and I don't know how does that, a light goes off in my head. I go, well, I can't come up with something new. So why don't you just use what you've already been doing, but kind of just move it around or adjust it. It'd be like if you had a room full of furniture, you didn't like the furniture, you got 2 choices. Get rid of the furniture and buy new furniture, or rearrange it. That's what I did. Mm-hmm. Long and short of it, I come up with this drum fill, and I'm so glad that the song makes it on the record. That's it. That record ends up getting 2 Grammys. That record blew John Mellencamp's career huge. The first single on that record was Hurt So Good It went to number 2. This is on the top 100. The top 100 charts, forget about the other charts. This is the big kahuna. If you're in the top 10, you just blew out the Stones, Elton John, Paul McCartney, Sting, whoever. You're taking one of their spots. Went to number 2. The reason why I didn't go to number 1 was because Eye of the Tiger was out and Rocky 1 or 2 was
Eye
out.
of the Tiger.
Yeah, there's no way you're going to beat that. And so, no, and back in the day, what it was, people, you probably know this, but the radio station would play everything, like album-oriented radio station. They played everything on the album. People call up and say, we like this. And they were getting the stats. And so, obviously, Hurt So Good tested real well, so they released it. And it blew up. Hurt So Good starts to drop down a little bit, and then Jack and Diane was testing high. Everyone loved it. They released it. We're all going like, really? That's the one? They want a rock one? Went to number 1. And my big drum fill is there. And everyone's like, who's the drummer? And I'm like, the room I was in, Chateau Marmont on Sunset, room 326 or something, when I got fired, was the same room when I heard Jack and Diane went to number 1. And the big takeaway was, I celebrated for 2 seconds, and then I went, well, I'm not number 1. I'm not that good. I got to do it again. But I can't do anything until he writes the next song. What am I going to do? I got to wait. And that's like that running back that goes, all right, I scored a touchdown. I need the ball again to show everybody I can do it again. So I didn't believe this number 1 stuff. I was grateful it was number 1, but I didn't buy it. So, yeah.
I think, like, most of the great, not just artists, but the great people at the pinnacle of whatever career it is, they have this same thing where you have some great moment and then you are immediately to the next thing.
Yeah.
Right. It's this drive, insatiable appetite to improve, to get better, to achieve.
Yeah.
And I hear it in your passion today, like this, like you can just see you're still driving and fighting and like.
Yeah, I'm wired that way.
Yeah.
Hey, I didn't make this car. I'm just driving it. If you don't like it, talk to the manufacturer, which is either my parents or God. I mean, I'm telling you, it's like, I accept it. I used to like, well, I'm kind of, now it's like, I own it. Dude, this is what makes me happy. And I'll go farther in saying it. When you're happy at what you do, the ripple effect of your love and joy of what you do affects everybody around you. So you're doing your job in the world. If you can make other people happy and then they make other people happy, that's great.
So tell me, I mean, working for John must have been incredible. You've worked for so many other artists. Who do you think was like the most demanding person to work for?
John Mellencamp.
Really? Hands down?
Probably John with Mellencamp, because he grew up in a family that was, the dad would have the boys run a race and whoever won was a hero and everyone else was a loser. They'd have, bench pressing contests. He grew up in a family where very competitive. We played sports all the time. He was the fastest white guy I ever, back then. I could not believe how fast this guy. We had a thing called the MFL, we called it the Mellencamp Football League, but I call it the Mandatory Football League. We'd land in Germany after, and immediately meet John outside in 30 minutes. I'm like, what? Football. So he was very competitive and was very demanding on himself, and then he did it. He did it on us. I am so grateful. I don't have one regret of anything. That was the school of hard knocks. I learned a lot from him. I learned it was not an easy ride. He was demanding on himself and he was demanding on us, and it was an incredible experience. It's like being in the Marines. And so anything else I've seen this a lot harder than this. So, and if it wasn't right for me, I saw guys leave all the time. If I wasn't if I wasn't a good soldier and a guy that saw the value out of this, I would have left. But I saw the value. I'm not saying it was easy. It was hard work. But I wanted it, like you said, real bad. And he was the toughest guy to work for, and it was a great experience.
So let me flip that a little bit. Who was the most fun artist to work with?
There's a lot of those. I did Blaze of Glory with Bon Jovi. God, man.
Wow!
He had a way. He'd call me. First day he says, "Handsome Kenny Aronoff." I go, like, "Who are you looking at?" This is John Bon Jovi saying it. Like, handsome. Or he maybe didn't even say my name. He just said handsome. I'm like, who's he looking at? I mean, he had a way of making you feel so good. And making that record was incredible. There's a whole story about that. It was great. But that was Melissa Etheridge, 10 years with her. Unbelievably wonderful person. There's so many of them. I'm working with Joe Satriani and Steve Vai now in the same band.
Wow.
Yeah.
No pressure.
Two badass guitar players. Wonderful people. Sammy Hagar. I'm with Sammy Hagar now. Unbelievably positive. Everything's positive. It's like, his personality and mine together could light up a whole city. I mean, I'm positive. This guy's like the supreme positive guy. So these guys are incredible. Kennedy Center Honors, I did 7 years there. I mean, I'm playing with people like Sting, Lady Gaga, Bruno Mars, Chris Cornell, Don Henley, Steven Tyler. All these people are wonderful. Of course, when you play at the Kennedy Center Honors, these artists come in. It's not their PA, it's not their band, it's not their show. They're a guest, and they're very humble. And Dave Grohl, one of the nicest, most talented guys in the world. I mean, I could go on. I'm leaving out. I apologize if I've left somebody out because there's so many people that would,
Did you ever think, as a kid with your snare drum and your cymbal, like you would get to play with these types of musicians?
Hell no. I had no idea. Huh. And I sometimes have pinch me moments, but I'm so driven, like you said, I'm so driven that it's like, next, what's next? What's next? You know?
Yeah.
But my teacher once said from Indiana University, dude, I mean, this is a guy who worked with Stravinsky and Bela Bartok and with Toscanini, and I never expected him to say this. Man, you should smell the roses, relax a little bit. I'm like, smell pretty good. I figured he'd be going, that's right, good attitude. No, he was saying, so when that was like almost like he was putting a mirror in front of me and went, well, this is the way I am. This is, I like doing it this way. Yeah.
So I'm going to shift gears a little bit here and just ask you, like, you were a student of drums, of percussion. What have you brought to percussion? Like, what innovations have you brought?
Nobody's ever asked me that question. I guess every individual, this is what I'll tell people, like every individual playing an instrument nobody sounds like them. That's your biggest asset or uniqueness, is that there's nobody like you. So I'd say even if a drummer were to play like what John Bonham did, and he was a perfect example on Kashmir. Doosh, ka, doosh, ka, doo-doo-doo, ka, doo-doo-doo. He played so simple, but perfect. But nobody can sound like him with the sound, and of course some of it's the way they recorded the drums, but his feel. I think to bring it back, what I brought to percussion in one way is that nobody can sound like me, and I'm on a lot of records and I'm on TV a lot. So I'm bringing the personality of Kenny Aronoff to the instrument. And even if I listen to that violin concerto I did on marimba, blazing, you can hear this intense energy. This guy just going for it, pushing, and all this technique and passion. And nobody sounds like that except for Kenny Aronoff. So that's what you bring, is like, and I'm kind of saying it to the people watching this, nobody can sound like you, and that's your greatest asset, is you are you, unique. Nobody can be you, so bring it. Be 100% you. Loud or soft, whatever it is. So that's what I think I brought is myself to percussion,
What a great message. So maybe I could geek out with you for a second just on like how you make that sound in your gear. Like, what are you playing now? What's your setup like?
Okay, well, that's a good question, because my setup, even at my ripe old age of 21, 17, but the numbers might be flipped. But anyway, so I've just expanded my kit, because when I joined Sammy Hagar last year, I decided to expand my kit, because, I wanted to honor Alex Van Halen. Mm-hmm. And he had, a monster kit. So I decided I'm going to get double bass drum. Now, I've always played the double pedal on a single drum, but I wanted that look. And I could put 3 toms right here in front. So instead of having, and I always do the reverse thing. Well, I am still doing the reverse thing, but it's up here. I go 8-6 reverse, which is cool, because I go 6-8, but that do. So I got 8-6, 10, 12, 13, 16, 18. So really, I've only added an extra bass drum, extra rack tom there, and these 2 little babies up there. 2 sets of hi-hats, one here, 2 20-inch crash cymbals there, ride cymbal there, another crash cymbal there. The only reason why I have a crash cymbal there is because when you come down here, I'm not going to go back there. So it's right there, a China up there. Now, the extra hi-hat and the China is there because when I went on tour with Steve Vai and Joe Satriani, Steve Vai's drum parts, that Jeremy Colston, killer drummer, came up with, and he's doing double bass drum stuff where I can't use those hi-hats. I need a closed hi-hat. So anything I have on my kit, I touch. So I have hi-hats there, so I go dot, dot, kish, 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 kish. And then same thing happens up on the China, and I go between the 2. So that setup is now my new setup. I have one snare drum. It's my signature snare, Tama. It's a brass snare, hand engraved, 5x14, die cast hoop on top, triple flange on the bottom. Now the die cast on top, everything about what I do to that snare drum is super instrumental on my sound. So the die cast hoop tends to have a much bigger crack. The hoop is higher for people who don't know. So your stick is like this now. So there's a little bit more ring in a way, and you get a lot of hoop. If the stick is more like that on a triple flange, it muffles the drum a little bit. So I like this. But the reason why I don't have the die cast on the bottom, it tends to tighten. It'll give you more ring because the hoop is higher. But if you put the die cast on the bottom, it tends to muffle the drum a little bit. So I leave the triple flange on the bottom to get the tack up top and then open up on the bottom. So I like a ringy snare drum, which was my sound in the Mellencamp days. In the Mellencamp days, I had triple flange on both. I use an Evans heavyweight head. I've tested all this stuff. The heavyweight head on top, Hazy 300 on the bottom, Pure Sound snares, 24 strand. Crucial that the butt plates are flat. I tried and experimented with different butt plates, and I thought something was wrong with my drum heads. The whole sound of the drum was not my sound when I didn't have the flat butt plates. Kind of compress the sound a little bit. The snares go across, and this keeps them tight on the bottom head, and it kind of adds like a compression, a tightness. If you use anything else, it doesn't sound like my drum.
Wow.
And that was my last learning experience when, like, I tried a bunch of different snares, and I was like, what's wrong with this drum? And I flipped it over and, oh, it's not the flat butt plates. And yeah, it's brass. Wait, is it brass? I can't remember what, brass or steel, but yeah. And so that's my sound, and that's my kit. I use.
How long did it take you? I mean, you added pieces, you moved location. How long did it take you to adapt
To the double bass drum?
Yeah, and just where everything is.
The biggest adjustment was the double bass drum. I was curious about, because your legs are now spread more apart, and it wasn't as hard as I expected. But I definitely had, the more difficult thing was learning to play the way Jeremy Colson played with Steve Vai, because the parts it wasn't like just going the 16th note thing. It was actually like rudimentary, like they were kind of like patterns, and I wasn't used to that. Once you get you can just get into that. And I was also with Joe, I was doing Satch Boogie, which is a shuffle. But the interesting thing is I lead with my left foot, because all the offbeat accents are up here, and I'm used to hitting offbeat accents with my right foot. And so if I'm going, so I lead with my left foot, and I can tap on the beat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's a much easier adjustment than to be able to hit the accents with my left foot on the offbeats. So I practice that every day.
All right.
Every day. I have this thing. It's like, if I had you come over to my house for dinner, we'd get along, have a great time, but I don't really know you. But if you moved into my house for a year, I'd know you.
Absolutely. So let me ask you a question. E-drums and what you think about. I remember I got to meet Mario Andretti, and this was many years ago, and I asked him what he thought about e-racing, like, electric cars were coming about. And I thought he had an interesting take on it. And he's like, it's a travesty. It's horrible. Like, you can't hear the roar of the engine. So, but it was a change, and technology is moving. And so e-drums have become quite popular. Do you love them? Do you hate them? How do you think it changes?
Oh, I love them. If you go into my house right now, in front of my 80-inch screen TV is the latest Yamaha DTX top-of-the-line drum set right there. All the pads, one bass drum, but it's basically mimicking that setup. It's in my house, right in the living room with all my restoration hardware furniture, and then there's that.
And it's there because it's not as loud? or because you love the feel and the sound?
Well, I'm doing it because it's not as loud, for the neighbors. I live in Studio City. I blow them out with my volume. So, and it's a cool way for me to practice in the house if I don't go to my studio. I have a studio with 2 setups now. I got my regular setup, one bass one when I record with a Tama Babinga kit. And if you're sitting from the drummer's perspective, 24-inch by 16. I have a 12-10 or a 13-10, 16-18. My signature snare drum, 2 crash cymbals ride, another crash cymbal China. But in front of that kit is a duplicate of that big double bass drum, huge setup. And so I literally can now go from one kit to the other comfortably. And when I record in there, in 15 minutes, I've got it down. I can move that big kit out and move the mics out, and I'm ready to go. And what I do when I record, I know I'm getting off the question a little bit. So people send me files from all over the world. It's called Uncommon Studios LA. You can find it on my website. People say, hey, would you record the songs? And I give them, is it 44-1? Or is it 4? What's your sample rate? I need this, I need this, I need this. And so my studio is ready to go. I have a control room with all BAE stuff, basically Neve API, and I have an engineer. I got the Mojave, the Royer mics. I got Roswell mics. I got all Shure mics, just everything to make my stuff sound like a professional studio. I did Joe Satriani's record, the last record there. Yeah, Elephants to Mars. I've done Access TV with Sammy Hagar in there. I've done John Five's song on his record. I'm working on a Chris Cornell thing right now. A tribute to him, that is. Anyway, the E-drum, though, is phenomenal for if I'm at home. I work on a lot of stuff. I don't even use the sounds a lot of times because I'm just playing on the pads. And I will sit there. It's also kind of cool. You can have NFL on. I can watch the football games. I'm reading. And then I'm reading, and I'm watching. I have a whole thing where my computer's there. If I'm doing technique, I have a drum machine or a Tama rhythm watch. So I love them. Now, on tour, when I was with John Fogerty for 29 years on and off, I always had the hand claps right there from center field. That was sampled there. On this and on the Joe Satriani, Steve Vai tour, I have the Yamaha DTX multi-pad, and I have sounds on the multi-pads for I think it's Little Pretty. Is it Little Pretty? Yeah, I think it's the Little Pretty song by Steve Vai, and it's not horrible. It's great. It's a tool. It's another dimension. The beautiful thing about, like I said, I can practice and work all this stuff out. I have another Yamaha DTX kit, the model before it, in my garage. When the fires came, I moved it in front of the TV set, the new kit. I went, I'm not moving it. I love this here.
So tell me, I've heard that you are getting into AI.
Yeah.
Tell me, what are you doing?
Okay, this is where it's a great tool. Okay, here's a perfect example. I'm doing a record that's honoring Chris Cornell. And so I'm playing Soundgarden songs, Chris Cornell, and Audioslave. So there's one song, Outshined, that Matt Cameron did. Matt Cameron can't do anything wrong. It's brilliant. His playing is great. And the drum part is very succinct and perfect with what the guitars are playing and the bass is doing. It's like, so I asked the producer, what are you doing? Are you building this all around the drums? He said, yes. I said, well, I don't think they record with a click track. 'Cause, I can go through the song and it's in pretty damn good time, but it's not with a click track and it feels great. So I said, so what I decided, I'd write every single note that I could hear that Matt's playing. And that's another thing you can do with AI. You can split the drums out and then listen very carefully and write every note down. Okay, so I wrote every note down. Then I practiced with Soundgarden. I mean, in the old days, I used to walk in the studio, they'd give me the song, and I'd learn it right there and then be gone. This, though, I spent a couple of weeks, not every day. I mean, every day I did, but not all day long. I have all kinds of other stuff I'm doing, but I ran through this song every day and got the whole feel as best I could with the way Matt played, because I knew when I went to record the song, I put the Soundgarden song in Pro Tools and I played along. There was no click track, just played along with the band and Matt. Then I used AI to take his drums out of the Soundgarden recording, and now you hear me with Soundgarden. I went, okay, that's good. And I sent that off to them, and I said, asked them, if you're playing in the same key as Soundgarden, you can either play just to my drums, or if you want to hear Soundgarden and play to that, you got that too.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Isn't that great? It was a great tool. So it didn't take away from anything I did, but this is great. This is great. Now, and I felt that song is so badass. There's nothing I would change. So I could have approached it where I'm going to do something completely different, but I felt, no, I want to honor what this band did. Chris is singing. I added a few little fills, but I just felt like there was no space for it. Look at me. So, I stayed pretty close to what Matt did, because it's like the whole band is going, that's the whole thing. I could go, no, that wasn't I liked the way I did it. Honoring the band, honoring what Matt did. And so that's how I did it.
So what now?
Yeah. Somebody once asked me that, what's your 5-year plan? I went, keep doing what I'm doing. So, I mean, so I have my studio, so people send me files. I love.
So is your studio set up for your drums, or is it set up for like a full band, or?
No, it's, I mean, there are times I have a bass player in the control room. I could do guitar. I could do it, but I prefer to do it this way. I can record as many as 10 songs in one day. It's all about prep. I write everything out, I rehearse it, and when I come in, I can do 3 takes. I already know, I'm like performing. For where I'm at right now, when I know the song, and I'm reading it, by the way, and it took me about 35 years to get to the point where I'm reading, but doesn't sound like I'm reading. And here's what happened. I was on a Melissa Etheridge tour, 1996. She replaced her drummer on tour. I had to learn a 3-hour show, 9-hour rehearsal. So there was no time to memorize everything. So I'm reading on stage. And she turned around one day and went, I can tell when you're reading and when you're not. And I went, that's not good. That's not good. So what I did was I learned how to listen from outside as if I'm in the audience or I'm the producer. I'm going, does he sound like he's reading? If I ever sound like I'm reading, I said, you can't play with all your passion and read. Yeah. And so she helped me realize, wow, you don't want to ever sound like you're reading. So that became the beginning of me being able to read and make it sound like I'm not reading. So when I record for these artists, and a lot of them are unsigned, I like to have practice the songs. So when I come in the next day and it's ready, it's like I'm reading, but I know the song. And it sounds like a performance. And that ties into emotion and feel that separates each individual from the other person. So that recording there, sometimes the artist is in town or the producer comes by. And I send, once I have the tracks done, I'll send them to people through the internet. And I do it like they just did 5 songs the other day. I'm going to do 5 in about another week. And then, of course, touring with Sammy Hagar, touring with Joe Satriani and Steve Vai. I'm about to do play with Elton John, honoring Brian Wilson for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I'm doing something with Billy Gibbons in December at the Troubadour. I'm doing a thing for one of these TV shows for veterans where I'll play with 12 artists. I don't even know who they are yet. And I also have a business that I do, which is inspirational speaking for corporations. I have an agent, spent 8 years developing a message. It centers around innovation and creativity, because I believe that solving problems, whether you're in a band or on a basketball court or in a corporate boardroom meeting, finding solutions to problems usually comes down to innovation and creativity. That's how I solved the Jack and Diane problem. I came up with a creative idea that made that song number one. And by the way, after that, every time John wrote a song on acoustic guitar, he'd look at me and go, what do you got? And I'd be going, why is he always asking me? Well, duh, you helped him solve a problem and helped make everybody a lot of money. So why wouldn't you ask that guy?
So funny that he went from you're fired, and now he's looking to you for inspiration.
That's right. Never thought about that. You're right. You're absolutely right. Yeah, that's great. Who cares? I got to play in all those hits. It's like, give me the ball, coach. And also I talk about the 3 C's, which I call the 3 C's, which is like, and it came up with this, and I use this as an example when I speak. Like, all of a sudden, here I am. I'm starting to be a session guy, and I'm getting called, Elton John, you're going to be recording with Elton John on Monday.
Wow.
I'm Elton John. I'm like, this is in the 90s, and I'm new at this. And so what I realized, okay, there's a lot of great drummers, but why do they want Kenny Aronoff? Well, obviously, I got a sound and feel, but some of it is I know how to connect with people. C, I know how to communicate with people. C, I know how to then collaborate, serve, get along, be a team player, and still be a badass. And that's what I call the 3 C's. So it doesn't matter what business we're in. It's all about people, connecting, communicating, collaborating. And I obviously talk about realizing your purpose in life. I want to inspire people. Look at it. If you don't, if you're not digging what you're doing, eventually you should probably go to what you're digging, because you're going to be happier, healthier, and you're going to affect everybody in your life around you. You should do what makes you happy. And I remember my parents would say, or my mom would say, be happy and healthy. I'm like, what are you talking about? I get it now.
I hear your message loud and clear. Do the things you love. Is there anything else you'd like to tell our audience? Parting wisdom from Kenny Aronoff.
Absolutely. There's a thing called a healthy life is a wealthy life. And, the thing is, this thing, I have to be healthy, and healthy mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually, to be the best guy I can be, And by the way, the 2 most important things that at this point in my life is be the best man I can be and get the most value out of this short life I'm living. Those are the North Stars for me. Be the best man. That's a work in progress, obviously, for all of us, and get the most value out of this life, whatever that is. But being healthy, I have 8 steps, and I created this for a lecture I once did. And basically, I don't know, I'll just say it real quickly. Okay, lifting weights. And by the way, lifting weights could be doing push-ups. It could be 10 pounds, doesn't matter. Yeah.
By the way, if you can't see, he's in incredibly good shape, and I can tell you've been lifting a lot of weights.
Yeah, I do all kinds of things. Tai Chi, I do stretching. But see, the lifting, people think, it's just to make muscle. It's not just for that. Lifting weights, it elevates your hormone levels, which elevates your immune system. Mm-hmm. That is a big one right there. Elevates your immune system and makes you strong. All right. Cardio, only way you can exercise the heart. Rumor has it that when the heart goes, you're dead. So I definitely want to do cardio. And it also elevates your hormone levels, which elevates your immune system. So you're doing great. And then flexibility, stretching, yoga, whatever it is. So now you got strength, endurance, and flexibility. Bam. And then number 4 is food and what you eat. And we could get into that. I eat definitely chicken, fish, and red meat, but I try to eat balanced and get the best quality of everything. Nobody dies from eating too many vegetables. Stay away from.
So mom was right.
What?
Mom was right.
Yeah, right. She was right. And there's obvious things to stay away from. Okay, number 5 is supplements. I take a lot of supplements because I don't work a normal, 9 to 5. I'm always over the top. So I take, multivitamin, fish oil. I take super green food. I take vitamin D3, which is great for your immune system. I take quercetin, which encapsulates your cells and it keeps viruses out. You can get a virus, but you don't get it as bad. I mean, I can go on and on and on. Fish oil is just great for 30 different things, including growing your hair, which didn't work for me. Well, maybe on my arm, but
I could use some. I'm getting a little thin up here.
fish oil, just dump it on you, massage it in. Okay, so supplements, and I take, half my suitcase is always filled with supplements, protein powders, green foods, vitamins and stuff, and it serves me. Okay, number 6 is water. Water, every cell in your body needs water, every cell. And the rule of thumb is whatever your weight is, divide it in half. Let's say you're 100 pounds. So you should drink 50 ounces of water a day. Every cell in your body. You can live without food for 4 days. You can only live without water 3 days. That's your whole system needs water. Number 7 and 8, I could do better at. Number 7 is some form, whatever is your stress releaser. Stress, everything I just mentioned is worthless. If you're stressful, it'll just destroy your body. Mm-hmm. So if it's meditating, if it's jumping up and down, whatever it is that lowers your stress, do that every day. Breathe. Have you ever heard of a guy called Wim Hof? He's got this incredible breathing thing where you breathe and it like stress releases. Wim Hof, check him out. So, whatever it is. And the 8th one is sleep. Now, I'm not the greatest sleeper, but I try to make sure if you add it all up in one night, I'm getting 7 to 8 hours. I might wake up 5 times, but maybe it's all that coffee and vitamins. But anyway, sleep is the only time you can repair the mind and the physical body. So that's my only other bit of health. Healthy life is a wealthy life, or a wealthy life is a healthy life.
Incredible advice from health to purpose to passion. I feel like I learned so much more today than music itself. And so thank you for joining us.
Thank you, man.
And great to have you here today. And make sure to subscribe to our channel. And thanks for joining us.
Thanks, dude. That was great. Thank you.
Hey, everybody. What an incredible conversation with Kenny Aronoff. I was just amazed how he went from the initial inspiration of seeing the Beatles and the Ed Sullivan Show to refining his craft over the years, to working with John Mellencamp, to getting fired and then refusing to be fired by John Mellencamp. Probably one of the best life lessons ever. And then just seeing him embrace new technologies and learning the craft over many, many years and continuing to push himself and to work hard every single day, even when he was the best drummer in the world. So very inspirational. Thank you to Kenny Aronoff for joining us. Until next time.